Good morning. It's Thursday. It is Chavav. Chavav Tammuz. Tavshin Ayin Dalet. We're in Teres Menachem say from Mamar and Tavshin Dalet Tavshin Yud Beis in the Mamar of Shavuos. You're in Beis the Chag of Shavuos. Tavshin Yud Beis, and we're on top of page, just at the top of page Shin Beis, at chapter 2. The Rebbe brought the Mamar Chazal. Shehikdimu Yisrael Nasel and Nishma, at the time when the Yidden said Nasa before Nishma, the angels put two crowns on their head, one for Nasa and one for Nishma. And the Rebbe explained that the crowns were bestowed because, obviously, one for Nasa and one for Nishma, but only because they said Nasa before Nishma. We will do before we will hear. That's what they said. They said first we will do, and then they said we will hear. Because when the approach to Torah and Mitzvahs is in that way, it means that there's this general bittul that the person has, the general nullification the person has to Hashem, and therefore not only is the Nishma different, but the Nasa is also different, or rather, both are different. Both the Nasa and the Nishma are different. That doesn't come from a perspective of the person's understanding, of the person's pleasure, the person's motive, as it were, but rather total dedication to Hashem, irrespective of what it might be. So, in other words, they receive the crowns for saying Nasa and Nishma. We will do and we will hear, but only because they said Nasa before Nishma. Only because they said we will do before they said we will hear. Chapter 2, page Shin Beis at the top. However, according to this, we need to understand the kiv and shegod l'maylas akdamas Nasa l'Nishma. That since the special quality, the uniqueness of preceding Nasa before Nishma is so great, to the extent that through it, the giving of the crowns took place. Bishvil Nasa v'Nishma, for the uttering of Nasa v'Nishma, we will do, we will hear. If that's the case, there should have been a giving of the crown. There should have been a third crown. For what? For saying Nasa before Nishma. You're giving one for Nasa and one for Nishma, and only because they said Nasa before Nishma, then you should give one for saying Nasa before Nishma as well. And even more so. In other words, even and it would seem that there's more reason to give a crown for saying Nasa before Nishma than for saying Nasa and Nishma themselves. So if you're giving a crown for each of the two, for each of Nasa and Nishma, you should certainly give one for what? For the fact that they said Nasa before Nishma. For if because of the result of the preceding Nasa before Nishma, which means if you're giving a crown for the special quality in the uttering of Nasa and Nishma, which comes about, that special quality which comes about through saying Nasa before Nishma, there is this idea of giving the crowns, then for sure, there should have been the giving of a crown, for the service of Hashem, the Hakdamas Nasa Nishma Atzma, of uttering, of saying, or of approaching Yiddishkeit and the commitment to Hashem with preceding Nasa before Nishma itself, right? Bottom line, it's very long-winded, but the point is, if saying Nasa before Nishma, which means having this general bittul to Hashem, causes Nasa and Nishma to be at such a level that they are deserving of a crown, two crowns, one for Nasa and one for Nishma, then that which introduces that special quality into Nasa and Nishma certainly deserves a crown. So why didn't they get the third crown for saying Nasa before Nishma, for having this general bittul approach to Hashem? If that's the case, the Rebbe sums up, there should have been the giving of three crowns. Echad keneged Nasa, one for saying we will do, Echad keneged Nishma, one for saying we will understand, we will listen, we will pay attention. Echad keneged Hakdamas Nasa Nishma, and one for saying Nasa before Nishma. Why were only two crowns given? Echad keneged nasa, echad keneged nishma. One for nasa, one for nishma. The nasa and nishma are not for saying nasa before nishma. Who says the explanation is the Hine Amr Razal. Our sages say Al Pasik Kadeshim Tiyu Kikadesh Ani. Hashem says to the Yidden, you should be holy because I am holy. Kadeshim is plural. Kadesh is singular, right? So although the simple meaning of the pasuk when Hashem says Kadeshim, you should be holy in the plural, is because he's talking to the Jewish people who are many. Kadesh Ani in the singular because I am. Hashem says Hashem is only one, so it's in the singular. But the Medrash elaborates. And it says there's a reason why concerning the Yidden it says Kadeshim in the plural, and concerning Hashem it says Kadesh in the singular, over and above the simple definition. What does the Medrash say? Mashal lemelech. This is a parable for a king. A king for whom his countrymen have made for him 3 crowns. Ma asa hamelech. What did the king do with these crowns? Notal echad, he took one of them, and he puts it on his head, on his own head. Ushtayim nosan bereish bonov, and 2 he puts on his children's heads. Kach, so too, ha'elyonim machtirim gimel kedushas lakadosh baruch hu b'chol. The celestial ones crown Hashem with 3 crowns, with three holinesses, as it were, each and every day, right? Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Ma eisa hakadosh baruch hu. What does Hashem do with these 3 crowns, which come from the holiness, the 3 holinesses of the celestial ones? Neitel Kadosh echad la'atzmei. He takes 1 holiness for himself, u'shnayim nesim b'reish bonov, and 2 holinesses he gives he sets on the head of his children. Right? So Kadoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy in the plural. You, the Yidden, he gives them 2. Ki Kadosh ani, and I take 1. Right? So the 2 Kadeshims are the 2 crowns that he gives to the Yidden, and Ki Kadosh ani is the 1 Kadosh crown that he takes for himself. What's the point? The bottom line is, says the Rebbe, we see from here, that there are indeed 3 crowns. It's just that 2 he gives to the Yidden, and 1 he keeps for himself. And we say, move on from this, is understood. Also concerning the crowns of the giving of the Torah. That the 2 crowns that Hashem gave the Yidden, as the Gemara says, 1 for Naaseh and 1 for Nishma. These correspond to the 2 crowns in this medrash that we just brought, to the 2 crowns that Hashem puts on his children's heads. In addition to this, there's also a 3rd crown. There is indeed the 3rd crown, which comes as a result of saying Naaseh before Nishma, having this general approach of Bittul to Hashem, of nullification to Hashem. Ella, however, what's the difference between this 1 crown and the other 2? Shekesses and Lotal Atzmei, that this 3rd crown, Hashem takes for himself, Hashem keeps for himself. So there are 3 crowns. It's just the 2 he gives Yidden, and 1 he keeps for himself. As the Rebbe will explain soon, what's the idea of these 3 crowns, and why indeed are 2 given away and 1 is kept to Hashem, kept for Hashem. This is also the meaning of the verse in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. It says over there as follows: Tze'ena ure'ena, go out and see. B'nai Tzion, daughters of Zion. B'melech Shleimei, in King Solomon. In other words, go and see King Solomon. And what specifically? Ba'atara she'itra le'imei. Go and see the crown that King Solomon's mother has crowned him with. B'yoyim chasunasei, on the day of his wedding. That's what the pasuk says in Shir HaShirim. Now there are different interpretations to the meaning of this verse, and the Rebbe interprets it as follows: V'amru Chazal, our sages say, Shemelech Shloimei Koi ala Kadosh Baruch Hu, that the King Solomon, when we say go and see King Solomon, what are we referring to? This is not referring to, according to this Chazal, according to the saying of the sages here. It doesn't refer to King Solomon, whom we know, the father of David HaMelech, but rather, this is a reference to Hashem. It's another name for Hashem. Why? Shehu Melech Shehasholem Shaloi. Hashem is a king that peace is his. What does it mean peace is his? The commentators over there on the Medrash say that people on their own, there's discord among people. If not for Hashem giving people the ability to unite and to live peacefully, they would not be able to. Some even say that even after Hashem has given us the ability to live peacefully, we still make a mess of it. But nevertheless, if not for that koyach, that power, that ability that Hashem gives us, human beings on their own would not be able to unite. It's only because of that godly element that, in fact, you see it whenever there's a more ruchnizdike, a more spiritual or holy element introduced. It unites people together. For example, you see it it's very palpable. Lag Ba'imr in Miran. People that, Yidden that for one reason or another would not be found together if they were forced. For example, you could have people from here. That's not necessary to specify, but the Frum and the Fry and so on and so forth, right? Comes in Iran, everybody's dancing together, everybody's in together. What's going on over there? There's a little more added element of godliness, as it were, of Kedusha, right? So Hashem gives people the ability to unite. So Shloimeh is a reference to Hashem. Shloimeh from the expression of Shalom, peace. The Imai, what does it mean? The crown so in other words, go and see the crown of Hashem. Who gives Hashem this crown? Imai, his mother. What is Imai a reference to? Koyal Knesset Yisrael. This is a reference to Knesset Yisrael. The community, not the community, the assembly of Yidden. And in other words, this is the source of the Neshamas, right? The source of the Neshamas is called Knesset Yisrael, the assembly of Yidden. V'yoyim chasunasai, on the day of his wedding. Which day is the wedding? Zeh Matan Torah. This is a reference to the day of the giving of the Torah, as the Mishnah says, the last Mishnah in Tractate Ta'anis. V'im Kain, if that's the case, now that we have these three key word interpretations, HaPirush, what is the meaning of Vatorah She'itre Imam? The crown that the Yidden, the crown with which the Knesset Yisrael crowned whom? It means go and see daughters of Zion. I guess that's a reference to the Yidden, right? Look at the crown which has been put on Hashem's head by Knesset Yisrael, the assembly of Israel, on the day of Matan Torah. So what's the bottom line? It means, in other words, the meaning of this verse is that the crown with which the assembly of Yidden crowned Hashem on the day of Matan Torah is Hu Shebe Matan Torah. It means that on the day of the giving of the Torah, Itru v'yichtiru neshamas Yisrael HaTorah LaKadosh Baruch Hu. The souls of Yidden crowned and adorned Hashem with a crown. So in other words, Hashem received the crown on the day of Matan Torah. By whom? By the Yidden. What is the Rebbe trying to bring out from all of this? That there's a third crown. There are two that Hashem gave to the Yidden, and there is one that the Yidden gave to Hashem. What's this third crown? So the Rebbe says this is exactly the point. Shezeu HaKeser HaGimel, this is the third crown. Which comes as a result of what? Of preceding Nasa before Nishma. Of the Yidden having this general approach to Hashem with total bittul, irrespective of the details. In this crown Hashem takes for himself. So indeed there are three crowns. To explain the idea of just another couple of lines, the idea of these three crowns and their connection to the giving of the Torah, why specifically connected to the giving of the Torah? Yuvon behek the Maimer Azal. So we understood first by prefacing the saying of our sages in Masechta Shabbos, concerning all the days of creation, it says, it was evening and it was morning, Yom, so and so, day 1, day 2, and so on. So concerning each day, it says, Yom Echad, day 1, Yom Sheni, day 2. When it comes to Friday, it doesn't say Yom Shishi, day 6, it says Yom HaShishi, the 6th. It means to say that it's a well-known and famous 6th day. So the Talmud asks, why does it have an extra hey? The ha of Shishi, which we don't find by any of the other days. Melamed, this teaches us, says the Gemara, Shehisna Kadosh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis, that God made a condition with creation. Amar lahem, and he said to all the created things that he created in the 6 days of creation, Im Yisrael mekabel ma'Torah tapah pei shegimel. If the Yidden will accept the Torah when I give it to them, atem iskaimin, you will continue to exist, v'chulu, etc. And if not, the opposite. V'zeo v'yerev v'beker yom hashishi. This is the meaning, and it was evening and the morning, the 6th day, the famous sixth day. Shevayhi erev v'ayhi beker. The meaning is that for evening and morning to continue. Shel Gemar Bereshis, the completion of evening and morning existing, meaning to say, what brought completeness into creation? Totally, this depends on Bayom Hashishi, on the 6th day. Which 6th day? On the famous 6th day. V'hu Vav Sivan is the 6th of the month of Sivan. What was so special about that day? Shenitna B'ya Torah, on which day the Torah was given. Which means to say that true existence of the world in its true sense began when? As a result of the giving of the Torah, and we will continue in Mitzvah Shem tomorrow.